Hello, and welcome back to Got Ahead. Now, as before, I say welcome back because we're assuming that you have actually looked at some of the other clips first. You might have looked at Creative QWERTY, which explained the basics of the QWERTY stage thinking programme, or you might have looked at Q is for question, W is for wonder. Those last two, certainly you should look at if you haven't already, because each stage builds from one to the next going forwards. And so the more comfortable you are with those stages, the better your end result is going to be. So today, what we're looking at is the explore stage. So what's explore? Well, explore is the bit where you take all those wonderful ideas, that fabulous creativity that you had, those extraordinary feats of imagination that you had dragged kicking and screaming from that wonderful brain of yours, and you're then going to make them into grounded, practical solutions. Oh, is that a bit dull? Surely not. And you're quite right. Surely not. Because dull is the last thing that explore is. Because what you're going to do, yes, you're going to add the practical. You're going to think about things like timescales, difficulty of the task, what materials you have. There's all sorts of practical, logistical things that you're going to have to think about. But it's not, I repeat, not at the expense of creativity and imagination. Because what you're actually going to do is you're going to look at these ideas and say, how can I take those ideas with the practical constraints that I have for my question and make it into something new, something beyond what I would have got before? How can I put the extraordinary into the humdrum? And that comes from looking at things a different way, turning things on their head, putting different things together, looking at what's causing a problem and removing the problem, adding something to make it more interesting. There's all sorts of ways that we can improve on those ideas. So even if you thought one of your ideas was a bit rubbish, it might be. It doesn't have to stay rubbish. We can work on it and make it more interesting or take away the problem that was stopping you from using it. And the way that we do that is by using a forget-me-not. We talked about forget-me-nots in the previous clip. We're not going to use a lot of forget-me-nots in this particular segment. There are loads that work very, very well with Explore, but we're going to limit ourselves to just one, and that one is called ACEs, and it's a very, very powerful forget-me-not, as you'll see in a minute when we move on to it. What we'll also do is use practical examples, using the same one that we talked about before of our daughter's DT project. She had to build a 3D cafe in a shoebox with special mention of the materials that were used to fit in with the science topic that she was doing. So we're going to look at ACEs and we're going to look at that practical example to show you exactly what we mean. So ACEs, like so many of the things that we do here at Got Ahead, it's an acronym. And we use acronyms quite deliberately because it's going to help you remember them. You remember the stages of QWERTY and which order they come because you remember them from the keyboard and they come in a certain order. More spelt out the memory, observation, research and inquiry that you used in Wonder. Here we've got ACEs. The A is for assess. So you're going to look at all of your ideas and look at the ideas closely. They're not going to be flat and 2D. They're going to be 3D, and they're going to have different features, different things that are interesting about them, that are good about them, or possibly problematic about them. But those features might well help you fit different things together, or certain features might be what's causing the problem that we can sort, or it might be that it's lacking a particular feature that you can add in a different way. So all of your ideas and the features they contain is something that we can take forward in a very practical way, but an interesting, creative, innovative, novel way to create solutions that you will be able to use to answer your question. Construct is the C in ACEs, and it's what it means. Construct. You're building, and you build by combining, there's another C for you, different ideas together. So instead of there being one idea, you've got 2 or 3 or 4, maybe multiple ideas. You're putting them all together to create one much bigger, stronger idea, something that will work where all the individual ideas wouldn't. So you're constructing something new from many smaller parts. The E in ACEs is enhance, and that is where you take an idea, you look at its features, and you pick out, well, what's good, what's not so good, and you can add to it to make it better, or you can take away a problem that's causing you some kind of difficulty. Either way, whether you're adding something to it or taking away the problem, you're enhancing your basic idea. You're adding more features to it, or you're taking away a feature that was problematic. And the last letter is S. That's for select, because you might well have ideas. We know you. You are extraordinary. You will have ideas that will work just the way they are. That's the one idea that you're going to select. Equally, sadly, there are always times when we have ideas that are not quite so good, and those are the ones that we would deselect. We just get rid of them. But often that's not the case. You can use an idea that's not as good as the others, but combining it with something else will make it more. So let's look at that. So here we've got explore, and we've got all these wonderful ideas, the imagination, the creativity that was out in force in wonder. And then we have to think, well, what are we going to do with it? So we construct it, we make a combined solution, putting several things together. We enhance it by adding interest or taking away a problem, or we can simply select the idea that's there. Let's look at that with the example of our cafe in a shoebox. Combined solution. Well, our daughter had this idea that she didn't want to have a shoebox that it was just looking down into the shoebox. She wanted it upright. And she didn't want just one floor. She wanted several floors. In order to have several floors, she thought, well, I could have some stairs in my cafe. So she had to think of a way of having stairs and floors. But the stairs didn't look very safe. So she had to think of, well, could she have a banister? Or how about safety glass? Maybe that would be an interesting way that she could combine the floors and the stairs and the safety glass to produce something attractive. And the research that she was able to do on the differences between toughened glass and safety glass was a very interesting thing on materials for her science. On the enhance, she wanted there to be lamps. We didn't have time to add any circuits to have a working light, but she wanted there to be a light there. She didn't want anything ordinary. She wanted something a bit more. So what she did was she took the ordinary idea of a light coming from the ceiling, and she said, I'm going to have a chandelier. I want crystal and bling. She wanted an expensive cafe. She's well known for her champagne tastes and lemonade budget, but she was determined. She was having a very, very upmarket cafe, and her cafe was going to have chandeliers. There were also things that if I show you an example, we came up with, believe it or not, that's going to be a till. Okay, but she looked at it and she thought, it's a bit boring, it's a bit ordinary. So she thought back in her memory, she thought about visiting Beamish, where there's a lot of old-fashioned shops that had old-fashioned tills, and she thought, you know what, let's have a gold till. And it even has, you can't quite see from there, but it even has the figures at the top of how much it's going to cost. So we took the idea of a till and we enhanced it. We made it better. So instead of the little bit of tin foil that she didn't like, she had a gold till with numerals on it. Equally, we had an idea, she had a bench. It was going to be a wooden bench. It wasn't very comfortable. So what she did was she added a cushion. Okay. This isn't actually the finished product because she decided, you know what? It's not very stable, particularly when you took it to the chair stage, which also had its own cushion, I have to say. But when you put them in, it kept falling over. So she didn't like that idea. There was a problem. So she went back to the drawing board and she came up with an enhanced idea for furniture that was stable. And we'll see more of that in a later clip. Selected solutions. There were things that she knew straight away that she wanted to have in her cafe. She knew that she wanted to have a bit where there was a display for cakes. Okay, so here is her display case, which is falling to bits because I picked it up the wrong way. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's the display case, and you'll maybe notice that underneath the silver, that's to represent the refrigeration unit, because obviously you couldn't just have cakes in a glass or perspex display case. You needed to keep them cold because they might have cream in them. So she's thinking about her materials, but she knows that's what she wants. She wants a display unit for her cakes. That's definitely an idea that is going in. When you're doing Explore for yourself, think back to your question. Think back about what do you need to have, what do you not need, and what are the qualifiers, those things that you need to consider for your idea. So you take the idea of the ideas that you're going to assess, and you're going to select things that you think will already work the way they are. You take ideas that you enhance by making them better, by making them more interesting, by making them more novel or imaginative, or by getting rid of the problems. Or you can construct something new, completely new, by adding 2 or 3 or more ideas together. And the graphic gives you an idea where you start with your idea is a basic shape. You add those shapes, you can make them bigger, you can put 2 shapes together or more than 2 shapes together, and suddenly you're spinning ideas into threads and then weaving them into possible solutions. So we now have 3 lovely bridges just from those basic shapes at the start. Now, that's much more impressive than the starting shape. Excuse me. So today we've looked at our Explore. We've thought about ACEs: assess, construct, enhance and select. Look at our other YouTube clips. The next one that you would go on from Explore is rank. And of course, check out our website as well, www.gotahead.com, where there's loads more resources that you can look at. Whatever you do, take away from this stage, although it's practical, it's not boring. You're looking for novel solutions that will work. You're looking for innovation. So creativity is still at the core of what we're doing. We still want the extraordinary that is in you and not just the humdrum that everyone else has. See you next time.